need to be verified. I would love to read your stories. But without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. Preachers tried to force a mini Bible in my hands when I was trying to go to lunch for my break. Today at work I had a small incident with one of the Bible pushers, as I like to call them. Now, as most people know, I am Wiccan and I am not the kind of person who will push my beliefs on others. I expect people to give me the same respect, but nope. People like to be pushy to try to save my soul, as they say, and today was no different. At my college where I work, there are tables that are set up for groups to host things. Sometimes even the military will be set up at these tables trying to get people to join the army or whatever. Today there were 3 groups set up. One was a chapter group hosting some kind of raffle. Another was a group that had a table set up where you can make your own stress balls from balloons and sand. And the third was these preachers passing out mini Bibles and pamphlets. I have noticed that these preachers have started to get pushy. Before, if someone would walk past and say no thank you to getting a Bible, they would just let them walk past without so much as a word. But not anymore. Today I was heading to the dining hall for my lunch break. I only get a 30-minute lunch break, so I did not want to waste it by stopping and chatting at these tables. These preachers started to hand me a Bible and I politely said no thank you and tried to walk past. No, they just got right in front of me and tried to forcefully put the Bible in my hands. I tried to move past them, but they would not let me budge. I looked at the 3 men and said, "Excuse me, I'm on my lunch break and I would like to go and get my food and eat, please." But they would not budge and one said, "Not until you let us save you." I looked at him and said, "I don't need saving, please leave me be." And this man got right in my face and started preaching to me and telling me how I was gonna go to hell if I did not heed what they were saying. A group of students saw them not letting me pass. One man was even holding my arm that I had tried to shake off more than once. A tall male student that is on a basketball team told the preachers to leave me alone, but they completely ignored him. He left and came back with some of his buddies that were on his team. The basketball team, a group of 4 students, surrounded the preachers and myself and started yelling at them to let me pass. By this time, 7 minutes have already gone past from my lunch break and I was very hungry. I told the men to please let me pass so I could eat, and they absolutely refused. One shoved a Bible in my hands and I simply just dropped it to the ground. I told them I did not want one and they refused to listen, and every time I tried to hand it back, they would not accept it, so instead I dropped it to the ground. This resulted in the one preacher that was yelling in my face to actually slap me in the face. I was shocked. Everyone that witnessed was shocked. The basketball team started yelling louder, which got the attention of one of the UP, University Police, that was walking by to go on their own lunch break. UP came over and saw what was going on. I did not know at the time that my lip was bleeding. I just wanted to get past so I could go get food. I was starting to feel a little lightheaded with all that was happening around me and kind of lost track of the time at this point. The basketball team was telling UP what happened, the preachers were telling their side. Meanwhile, here I am, still with my arm being held by this rude preacher, and started to cry. I have a hard time controlling my emotions when I get angry and my anxiety acts up. UP asked me what happened and I told them that I was trying to go on my lunch break when these rude men would not let me past them. I looked down at my watch to notice that it has now been over 15 minutes and I started to panic. Now I will have to get my food and rush eating it. UP told the men that they had no right stopping me from going on my lunch and that because of their actions there will be a report filed. I was not able to go on lunch. I had to follow UP to file a statement. The basketball players came too. UP called my manager to let her know what was happening and that I would be late getting back from my lunch. My manager understood and actually came down to check on me. When she arrived, she noticed my lip bleeding and handed me a tissue, and she was angry that someone would do this to one of her employees. She demanded to talk to the preachers to give them a piece of her mind, and the UP told her she was free to do so. The preachers and my manager had a yelling match along with some other students and more UP while I am sitting in the little office writing out what happened and handing it over to the UP that helped me. He told me he would be up to get his usual coffee later, that he needed to handle this first. He took the statements from the basketball players and many other witnesses and then told the preachers they needed to come into his office for a chat. I was allowed to leave to finally get my food. My manager told me that she will fix the time clock so that it will reflect that I did not punch in late, and told me to go and eat my lunch. I thanked the basketball players that helped me and the other witnesses. As I was leaving to finally go get food, I could hear the preachers yelling about trying to save my soul and crap, and UP telling them that they crossed the line. I specifically heard one UP say, "If someone tells you no and you pushed the issue, you are not saving their souls. You are being a bully, and I don't think your God would be pleased with your actions." I don't know what the preacher said to this, because by this time I was out of hearing range. I went into the dining hall, got a burger and fries and sat down to finally eat. I kept thinking to myself how strange the whole thing was. Those preachers have never been this pushy before, and I kept wondering why all of a sudden they were being so pushy. I don't agree with trying to force others to believe in whatever it is you believe in. If someone asks you questions about your religion, then yes, you can explain to them about your beliefs, but don't try to force them to change their own beliefs because you think you're trying to save them. I do not force my beliefs on others, and I accept the fact that everyone has their own belief system. I love learning about other religions, but it does not mean I'm willing to change how I believe because of that. I just like learning how different each religion is, and sometimes it fascinates me. When I went back to work, my manager told me I was okay to go home early, and she signed the edit sheet stating she approved of me going home early. She told me if I ever run into a situation like that again, to give her a call right away and she will come down and take care of it. I'm lucky that I have such an understanding manager. I heard from UP that the preachers will be getting a ban from coming to set up a table ever again because of their actions. Now I'm gonna rest and read until I head to bed. Good night, Ripe and Reddit. Thank you for the fantastic story once again, Stacy. And guys, please feel free to post your own story on Reddit r/ripestories so I can read it in one of the next videos. Either way, in regards to that story, I'm genuinely curious, how often do you come across these preachers every day in the US? I have seen preachers like that in Germany as well, actually in front of my university, but they are definitely not as pushy as the one in this story. But yeah, please tell us your experiences in the comments. Big shout out again to Stacy Rose for posting these high quality stories on our subreddit. The next story was posted by Coffee Beans Rock 979 and is titled "Neighbor Helps Me Take a Name Off My Baby Name List Forever." And this story falls in the Neighbor from Hell category. First time posting here, I watched a neighbor video yesterday and remembered our encounter with the only bad neighbor worth remembering. A bit of backstory is needed. Hubby and I got married 16 years ago in my home state of Wisconsin and moved to his home state of Florida a week after our honeymoon. We stayed with a family member until we could rent an apartment about 6 months or so. We found a place and moved in. Our 1-bedroom apartment was a corner unit of a 6-unit building. We shared a back wall with one unit and a bedroom wall with another. The man living behind us was fine. The one and only time I had to ask him to keep the noise down was over 2 years into our lease. The other neighbor was another story entirely. Mary was a single, religious busybody who used her free time to make her neighbors and the people in the management office hate her. She paid her rent on time and did not break any apartment complex rules, so they could not evict her. She tried to be friendly when we first moved in, after seeing us coming home dressed up after church, and talked to us about churches and our beliefs. Thinking she had made friends, she stopped us to talk every time we left and she was outside. She was jealous of our marriage and would hit the wall of her unit every time our bed frame hit our wall at night. It got pushed too close when I made the bed sometimes, and I often forgot to pull it back. So just climbing into bed at night made a bumping sound and called us
rabbits who did it all the time.
She did her housework late at night and made as much noise as she could to tick us off, but we ignored it because she was so unreasonable. The first Halloween that I worked, hubby and I dressed up and did face makeup for work. He was a skeleton, just a makeup, and I was a vampire, all black clothes, black nails and makeup. We had also decorated the front of our place for Halloween. She went off on our costumes and decorations and questioned our Christianity. We ignored her and bought more decorations and made a big deal about handing out candy. When I got pregnant with our daughter, she lost it. She complained that I would let the baby cry all night and day and that we should move into a 2-bedroom place and stop bothering her. When the baby came home, she complained to everyone how inconsiderate we were to have a baby while living next to her. She went over the edge when baby number 2 came, but we were ignoring her completely by then. The title of the story comes from the helpful folks we knew who gave us baby name ideas. We already had a name, Emily Louise, my grandma's name, but we're getting ideas from everyone because it was our first baby and they wanted to share their wisdom with someone who obviously needed it. Every time the name Marie came up, hubby and I gave a united no and told the kind person why. She was still living there when we moved out and watched us leave the last time with a satisfied smile. I hope the next neighbors were atheists who played death metal music, cussed at her when she invited them to church and acted like rabbits all the time. You know guys, one thing that I find actually super interesting is the impact a name can have on your future. I don't know if it's the same case in the US, but in Germany for example, the name Kevin, and this is pretty much proven by research, has a very bad reputation, and as a result a lot of teachers will give Kevins a hard time in school, even though the kid in question might be the nicest boy in the class. So yeah, I'm curious if there's an equivalent for that in the US. The last story was also posted by Stacy Rose. It's titled Shopping with My Friend, Her Baby, and dealt with an entitled woman. A friend of mine has a baby that is about 3 months old, so still a tiny baby, and he's generally a very calm, quiet baby, but there are times when he gets fuzzy, mostly when it's time for him to eat or when he needs a diaper changed. Well, my friend, her baby and myself were shopping in Walmart, surprise surprise, to pick up some things for her baby and to basically look at their Halloween costumes they have out. We were there minding our own business and my friend's baby was sleeping in his stroller, so all in all a very quiet and calm baby. This random lady walks up to us, looks at my friend's sleeping baby in the stroller, looks at my friend and says,
"You need to do something about that,"
while pointing at my friend's baby. My friend looks at her confused and said, "What?" And the lady said,
"That thing there,"
still pointing at my friend's baby. My friend said, "Are you talking about my baby?" And the lady said,
"Yes, now do something about it."
My friend was starting to get mad and she said, "My son is not an it or a thing, and what is the problem? He's sleeping. You need to do something about your attitude." The lady said,
"Those things don't need to be in public places. You need to do something about it right now before I get a manager."
At this I just laughed and said, "Yeah, go ahead, get the manager." The lady looked at me and said,
"Fine,"
and walked away. We thought that maybe she took the hint and decided to leave us alone, but nope, about 10 minutes later she came back with the manager screaming,
"Damn!"
And my friend and I looked at each other, confused as hell. The manager walked up to us, nodded and turned to the lady and said, "And what would you like me to do, ma'am?" She started screaming and said,
"Tell them to take that thing out of the store."
And the manager looked at her and said, "What thing?" Then she said,
"That,"
while pointing at my friend's still sleeping baby. The manager looked down at my friend's baby, then back at the lady and said, "Ma'am, I cannot tell someone to take their baby out of the store. I don't see what the problem is. Looks to me like he's sleeping and not making any noise at all. But you on the other hand, are making more than enough noise to bother my paying customers. I'm gonna ask you to leave these ladies and their baby alone or you will be asked to leave the store. Do I make myself clear?" The lady then screamed,
"But I'm a customer and I don't like seeing those things in stores. It should be illegal."
My friend and I looked at her and started laughing and I said, You think babies should be illegal? How do you think you came into this world? You were a baby once. My friend's baby started waking up and getting a little fuzzy, and the lady screamed,
You see, this is why those things don't belong in stores.
And the manager moved closer to the lady and said, Ma'am, that baby is fine. You're the one that is not. From what I can see, you're the reason why he woke up. Now I'm gonna ask you to leave this store and never come back again. We do not tolerate behavior such as yours in this store. The lady looked at him and said,
I'm not leaving.
The manager looked at her and said, Fine, I guess we will be removing you by force then, and proceeded to call up security on his radio. The lady stood her ground and was still screaming by the time security showed up. The 2 security guards had to basically take the woman's arms and drag her away from us. The manager looked at us and said, I'm sorry about that, ladies. Are you both okay? We both smiled and nodded, and then he said, Beautiful little boy you have there, miss. And my friend smiled and thanked him. At that, he left. When we had finally finished shopping, we were talking about the crazy lady, and a couple next to us said, Oh, that's why she was taken out of the store? We were wondering what happened. And smiled at us again, complimenting my friend on her adorable baby. We saw the manager again when we walked outside. He was out there, I think, to make sure the lady left. We thanked him and went to our cars. I just don't get why people are like this to others. It's honestly confusing. I think Karen is talking about herself because she is a giant baby after all. But either way, once again, thank you so much for posting your own stories to r/ripestories. It's really an honor for me to read your stories. Unfortunately, we are at the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the content for today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.